Welcome to the Inner Fire Climbing Podcast. I am Jesse Firestone. My guest on today's show is Hayley McKinney. She is a climber and YouTuber out of Las Vegas and a former coaching client of mine. And I had her on the show mainly to talk about her journey through beating fear of falling. Hayley took a pretty bad fall, which we'll talk about in the show. And it was a very long road for her to come back from that to climbing hard. And she is now climbing the hardest she's ever climbed. We also talked about a few other things, including slab climbing and lots of just general climbing chit chat. But by and large, this is a kind of deep, I hate that phrase, deep dive. I almost said deep dive. Just a journey with Hayley through overcoming her fear of falling. I know that a lot of climbers struggle with similar things, and a lot of coaches talk about it and even specialize in it. But it is maybe a little bit different to hear somebody talk about what it was like for them, and just to hear the confidence that Hayley now talks about her climbing and the type of routes that she's attracted to doing now compared to where she was at when she started trying to overcome her fear of falling. Yeah, it's a massive difference. And without further ado, I will drop you straight in with Hayley McKinney. Hayley McKinney, welcome to the Inner Fire Climbing Podcast.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. You were just gracing my television like one day ago on your YouTube channel.
Sick. So stoked that you are still watching my videos.
Yeah, dude. It's good. It's good to stay connected with your goings on. Yeah. You just sent 513. That's cool.
Yeah. That video was like really hard to make. Just because it felt like kind of monumental. And I had all this like cool footage and I was like, oh God, like how am I going to put all of this into like some condensed thing that I feel like actually represents what happened there.
Yeah, I understand. I've never made that effort with my YouTube channel, but I understand the thrust of doing that. I've never actually tried.
Yeah, it took like flying to New Zealand and having some like extremely uninterrupted time to like actually finish it.
Yeah, totally.
Like on the plane.
Sense. Nice. Yeah, on a laptop video editing. That's hardcore.
Laptop video editing on the plane. Just like literally nothing else to do, no distractions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, just finish it.
Video editing is like good for like locking in, I feel like. Like I just edited a video of a boulder I climbed and put it on my YouTube channel. And I actually did more work for that than I've done for like a lot of my video logs. I literally just like slap in the stuff I said, and then I slap in climbing, and then I slap in the stuff I said, and then slap in some climbing, and then I'm like, publish. Like, we're good. We're done here. But this one, I tried a little bit, and even that little bit cost me like 3 or 4 hours of sleep this week, and I was like, this is like not worth it.
Totally. It's just an absolute time vortex. Yeah. Like I could just sit and edit video for like 12 hours, and like the only cue I would have to like stop is like, I'm hungry and it's done.
It's a little bit like projecting, in the sense that if I zoom in on any particular detail, I can just spend like the time sink can just be infinite, like if you're on your sport project and you're like, I really need to like work on the fourth bolt, I could just hang at that fourth bolt and like just go up and down it. Like, even if it's not very hard and my belayer's like tired of me asking to go back down, I'm just like, yeah, but like, could I put my foot there instead of there? It's like the boulderer in me coming out when I'm on a rope, for sure.
Totally. I mean, I feel like I, as more of a sport climber, also struggle with that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I want to just like absolutely optimize it, but also want to be respectful of my belayer's time.
Yeah, one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to have you on the show, well, I mean, we're homies, and also like I used to coach you, we've climbed together a bunch, but one of the big reasons I wanted to have you on the show was you made this video on YouTube about how you got over the fear of falling, and I've sent that video to a bunch of people. It's a great video. It's like
thanks.
Underappreciated, the quality of that video for like how many people struggle with fear of falling. You know what I mean? Like it should be like required viewing almost. So yeah, we don't have to recover the whole video here, but I thought it would be cool to just hear your story about like, maybe we should talk about your whole story of climbing a little bit. I'm like most interested in the fear of falling, but maybe you could give us just like the bullet points of like getting into climbing and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they are like kind of related because yeah, it was kind of all around the same time. Yeah, started climbing in a bouldering gym in New York City. very, very opposite of like living in Vegas and sport climbing a bunch now. But yeah, I realized that climbing was amazing and it was something that I wanted to do all of the time, and ultimately ended up moving to California to get like better access to the outdoor and to climbing. And then I didn't know anyone in California, and I had like zero outdoor climbing experience besides like bouldering in Central Park. And so I just like found partners on Mountain Project and like Meetup. Is Meetup even still a thing? Like Meetup was a thing then. You would like go to the gym and there would be like a climbing meetup. And that led to me like climbing outside with a bunch of like dudes, like middle-aged dudes who
would use Meetup.
Like, would use Meetup, yeah. And wanted to do like a bunch of like multi-pitch trad and also like never fall. Or like falling was like kind of something that you would do in the gym, and it would be like you would do your session and then it would be like, okay, like let's try something hard now that I might fall on, and then you would kind of like, you know, maybe like clip a bolt and then just like let go. It just wasn't really representative of what falling is like in the real world. And so I just like didn't have a huge amount of experience with like falling in general, myself, other people. It was just like kind of like that's something that you don't really do. But I got super psyched on trad and multi-pitch and climbing outside, and I just like loved everything about climbing, and that's what was accessible to me at the time. So like that's what I did. And then I went to climb at Mount Arapiles in Australia for a month. Do people know what that is? Like I'm obviously from that part of the world.
Yeah, I think so. I think Mount Arapiles is like a pretty famous crag, but yeah, it's in Australia. That's enough for people.
Super sick, like trad climbing mecca, like the most bullet rock you've ever climbed on. Yeah, basically went there and was leading, like I was like kind of working on becoming a more competent trad leader because I had like mostly followed, and I was, trying to like up my lead game. And I was like leading a route that wasn't that hard for me. And it was also very long. It was like 48 meters long, which is what in feet, like 150 feet.
Long, yeah. Long pitch.
And and my partner and I had like 5 cams or something.
Okay.
We're like very little gear and like limited drawers. And so we like did the math at the bottom and we were like, okay, you can place like one piece every like 4 or 5 meters. So that's every 15 feet?
15, 20 feet.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this is fine. Like, this is what I'm trying to do. Like, you know, this climbing is like below my limit. And I got off route because, you know, route reading, that's a whole separate skill that you like don't have to do when you sport climb. Got off route, did a move that would be hard to reverse, just like trusting that I was in the right place and that like the grade was within my ability. Stuck the move, realized that there was nowhere else to go and there was nowhere to put any gear, and that I was above a ledge and that it was going to be like really, really bad if I fell. And so I had that like, you know, I don't know, couple of minutes of like being able to hang on to those holds and like clock ticking down. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to like try and keep climbing into this like seemingly impossible like smooth rock with like nothing? Are you going to try and down climb the move? Like, are you sure that there isn't any gear? You know, just like I very like vividly remember that feeling of just being like, I'm in a really bad situation and like let's problem solve as quickly as we can. And then ultimately what I decided to do was like try and down climb the move because it seemed like the only real option. And I tried to do that and I fell and landed on isn't quite right. I like acutely bounced off the ledge. Like I impacted it and then recoiled back up into the air and then landed on the end of the rope. And like I looked down and I saw my ankle like swell up like in front of my eyes, not slowly. Like it just went like like someone had blown up a balloon.
Wow.
Yeah, and that obviously sucked.
Understatement, yeah. It's traumatizing, for sure.
Yeah, and I was, like, in freaking Australia, and I lived in the States at that time, so now it's, like, it's not only, like, okay, I have to get down off this wall and get all my gear and, like, go to a hospital, but also, like, how am I going to get home? I can't walk. Yeah, that was where I went from like a regular climber who, you know, like maybe wasn't super confident falling, but wasn't like especially afraid of it, just didn't have a whole lot of experience, to somebody who was absolutely terrified of falling and had like no confidence in myself because my previous confidence in myself had led to me making like a really bad decision that had like a really bad outcome. And I felt like it was a consequence of my poor decision making.
Yeah.
So like my ankle healed, but my head did not.
I think it's like super common, like when your confidence gets you in trouble, you wind up blaming your confidence, and then when you feel confident feelings, you're almost like, it like sets you on edge, kind of like that voice in the back of your head that's like, you can do this. You're like, that's what happens right before I take a really nasty fall. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, I used to think that, and I listened to that, and like, look where it got me. So, like, no, I'll just be like, fuck that. Like, not. So yeah, I mean, part of the reason my ankle healed and my head didn't is because like I did PT on my ankle. You know, I was like fastidious with that, but I didn't really know about mental training or whatever. So I just kind of like didn't really do anything about it. And I would like, when I could return to climbing and I was like top roping 5'8" in my gym, I was like so scared on top rope in the gym that like my entire body would like violently tremble, so much so that I would like fall. Which is crazy, you know, like I logically knew that I was safe. I wasn't even leading. I wasn't outside. I wasn't off route, but it was, you know, like a trauma response or whatever. I guess that's what like Carly, who ultimately coached me through it, that's what she would call it. And yeah, I just kind of, it improved a little bit from there to where I could like feel comfortable on top rope and feel comfortable like top roping outside. But I just like couldn't on site anything out of the grade. I would literally just cry. Like I would go up
kind of to like take in all the bolts if you lead.
Yeah, and like take and not be able to untake, or like, you know, I would be like, okay, I'm gonna climb, and then I just like paralyzed, like wouldn't be able to move. We couldn't even really try, and just felt like totally powerless. You know, like I was like, I am not in control of this, and like I really would like it to not be this way, but I like don't know what to do, and I don't know if it's even something I can possibly change. Like I have no idea where to begin with this, and like, am I beyond repair, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
Like I
the crazy
genuinely
thing is, like,
thought that
you're going through that and you're feeling so like this is your journey and you're like burden to bear, and like climbing's never going to be the same for you. And I think there's a lot of people actually who can relate to that, to the point that once you meet a lot of these people and realize just how many people are paralyzed by their fear, especially with sport climbing and tri climbing, it's kind of funny that so many people go through that journey by themselves, you know, because like it's maybe the single biggest key to sport enjoyment, even not even performance, but like just enjoying sport climbing for what it is like being able to climb fear free. So I'm not trying to make light of the fact that you went through this situation, but it is funny how many people, and I've been through this myself too, where you're like really, really afraid and you're like, gosh, what's wrong with me? Like I'm a piece of shit. But then actually it's just a totally like completely normal feeling.
Yeah, and like I don't know why it isn't intuitive for people to like realize that there's probably other people who are feeling the same, but it really wasn't for me. I mean, I guess mine seemed like very bad, you know, like around that time I had never met anybody who was like as scared as I was, and as just like totally would just like physically like shut down, you know, and like in a way that like I felt that like I had no control over. It turns out that's not that weird, and lots of people are scared of climbing because climbing can be really scary.
To be fair, most people have not flown around the world and shattered their ankle in the Arapalis. So that part definitely, I did not mean to make light of that part, but continue.
Good, I didn't interpret it that way. Anyway, it became a real problem. Like I, kept climbing because I love climbing. Still do. We can use that meme.
I used to, but I still do. Got it. The shepherd.
I kept climbing and like got up to like 512A. But the way that I would climb these routes would be to have a rope gun put up the route on top rope for me, rehearse the absolute shit out of it, send it on top rope first, and also send it in a manner that didn't feel desperate. And then be like, okay, I guess I like have to try and like actually send this thing now. And like, in the like preceding days or day or whatever, it would just be like agony knowing that I was like imminently about to have to try and do this thing that was like so fundamentally terrifying. And it like sucked. Yeah, like I talk about this in the YouTube video. It was bad for the crag, like I don't think anybody's having fun if someone's crying at the crag. And that person was me. And that wasn't like fair to my partner either. Because like, you know what I mean? I feel like it's okay sometimes to like have a bad day or like be sad or whatever. But when that's like every day, go to this like tipping point of like, this is so bad that anything would be better than like continuing to like in this like wrestle fest. And like, I don't know what to do here. So like, I'm going to try and find somebody who can help me. And then I decided to get a coach.
I just wanted to say there are probably, like I said earlier, but with the low point, there are probably a lot of people who can relate to that feeling. I totally agree with you. It can be like really stressful for everybody when somebody is like crying at the crag or whatever. So hopefully those people, if they are listening, choose to listen to the whole conversation. But then I was going to say, like, could we, instead of telling the story in order, could we jump ahead just a little bit? Because you said, like, when you wanted to send a 12A, you would have somebody put it up and you would top rope the shit out of it. And then you would be like, oh, fuck, I have to lead it now. And it'd be like really stressful. Like, what does it look like for you to project and send a route now? I just want people to kind of know, like, where they can go from there.
Yeah. Now I would consider my head game to be like my greatest strength. So very, very different. About as opposite as you could possibly get from like trembling on 5'8" on top rope in the gym. Like, I love scary stuff. I love high balls. I still like, it's not that I don't get scared. It's more that like I have really like understood that and learned how to control it and like work with it instead of like let it overwhelm me. And now it's fun. And now like, especially like when red pointing, fear isn't really a factor unless it's like a particularly scary route. I just like don't really think about that anymore when I'm trying to red point. I might the first like couple of times up the route, but like, especially once I haven't figured it out, like certainly the night before I'm like trying to send something hard, I'm not thinking like, oh my God, I have to lead climb tomorrow, you know, like that thought has like long been extinguished.
That is funny because it's such a natural instinct. And a lot of what we're trying to do when we're trying to like get to higher levels of performance is almost like find ways to sort of deny that instinct or like at least work with it. Like the first thing that I thought of was the most extreme high balls that I've done that I rehearsed the shit out of and then knew that I had to go for. I was extremely anxious for like days before I would go to do those things. It's a different case because I think the objective danger is much higher than it was in the case when you were like top roping a 512. But it's the same human experience of just being like, oh, I'm going to try to do this thing that like really scares the crap out of me, you know? So now, you know, if you go to try a new route, you probably still try things on top rope sometimes, but it sounds like you just spend a lot more time on lead and you're just like much more comfortable taking falls and all that stuff.
I actually don't ever really top rope things, or like, I couldn't tell you the last time. It's probably been a couple of years just because I worked so hard to get here, you know, that I feel like it's like it's just like when you build strong muscles, you know, you have to like maintain them. And like, I put so much time and effort into like having a strong head game that like I will not do anything that's gonna like take away from that, if that makes sense. So, like I like to practice that all the time.
You keep the sword sharp. I mean, I think that totally makes sense. I think I have like Smith rock bias, which is like never turned down a top rope like in my life, you know.
Right.
It's like
exactly.
built in.
The last time I top roped something, I think probably was in Smith.
Okay. All right. So, gosh, how did you get from that nadir to the peak that you're at now of like you don't really feel fear that much, or you don't respond to your fear that much?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I did was get a coach. Basically, I just like had no idea like what to do. I was at an impasse, right? And so I was like, well, this can't hurt. And the like what I would consider like the first step was like I had a like intro call with her to see if we like clicked. This
is Carly, future friend of the podcast. Yeah.
This is Carly Rager. She works with Project Direct, or like she owns Project Direct. And yeah, I like reached out to her and she taught me how to. She gave me a fishing pole, shall we say.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And in our like very first conversation, I was basically like, can you help me? Like, is it even possible? And she was like, of course. Duh. You know, she like didn't say that, but she was like so unfazed by that question and didn't have any problem saying like, you know, we'll try, but like might be really hard. She was like, yes, like, of course.
Yeah.
And that like,
I can say as a coach, like that's one of the cool things about being a coach and working with a lot of people is that when somebody comes to you with a problem you've seen 50 times before and they feel like it's really special and they're a unique snowflake, but you're like, no, dude, like there's a system for this. Like we're going to get you past it. We can do this.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. She totally was like, there's a system for this. Yeah. Like she was like, I understand this is like this like big, scary, complicated thing, but like we can like break it. We can discuss what actually happened to you. We can like take all of these small steps to like get where you need to go. And like, I can absolutely help you with this. And just like, that was the first time that I believed that it was like not impossible for me to not be scared. Yeah. Not even that it was possible. Just that it wasn't like a complete and total, like, shut the door, never gonna happen.
The very first bullet point in your video is, I think you have like, I think it's 10, right? Is it 10 things in the video? Yeah. The first one is just to believe that you can get over your fear of falling. And like, that resonates so strongly with me because of my bias for basically all performance is that like it all starts with your identity and your self-belief. So it's like if you strongly identify with yourself as being a scared climber, like if that's, if you're like joking about it and being the person at the crag and you're like sort of embodying that character of the scared climber, then like you're going to be very attached to it, but you had like even though you were the scared climber, you had a drive to change. There was a part of you, there's like anything else would be different, where anything different would be better than the way that I feel, right? So you had some of that belief.
Even like trying and failing, like I was like, well, at least if I'm like crying at the crag every day, but I'm like doing something to leave that state, like that's better, even if I'm like trying and nothing's happening, like at least I've like decided to take some sort of action.
Well, did you try anything before you went to work with Carly? Like, did you try like fall practice or like just pushing through it? Like that's what everybody tries to do is like push through it, That's like the boyfriend advice.
Ooh, this is kind of terrible advice.
Totally, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, I tried a lot of stuff. Like I read books, all the books. I asked like people who were unafraid or like seemed unafraid or had a better head game. I asked them for tips. I tried taking practice falls. I attended like a fear of falling course that Hazel Finley ran online.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I like did all of the stuff. But like when it came to the reality of like, here I am on a rope, like trying to climb past a bolt, like I just like couldn't get myself to do it. And like, that how do I explain this? Like that was very new to me as like a human. Like I think I'm generally pretty good at like self-actualization and being like, I want to do thing X. So like I'm going to get up off my ass and like take step 1 toward thing X. And then I'll just keep putting one foot in front of another till I get there. But in this, I was just like up against a brick wall.
I think we just we do a lot of like replacing in our heads of like we hear this phrase and we like replace it with another phrase. And I think people like their problem is that they have fear in their climbing. They're afraid of like, it's more than fear of falling. Like your video is titled Fear of Falling, but we're talking about like being able to just climb free and like fall unexpectedly. And you're not feeling any fear at any point in that situation, like, this is maybe a random metaphor, but for me, it's like I do the dishes every day, and I'm telling myself that I'm cleaning the kitchen. When I like look at the kitchen, I am objectively not cleaning the kitchen every day. I'm just doing the dishes every day. And fall practice is like doing the dishes. You know what I mean? There's like a lot more I feel like needs to be like dealt with in order to be like a bold climber. To go from like, I can't take a fall even at the bolt to like, I can on-site something and not feel fear while I'm doing, or be able to manage my fear while I'm doing it. Like that's a very big distance in my opinion.
Yeah, it is like so complex and about so much more than just falling. And like, this is probably jumping ahead a little bit, but like in this whole coaching that I did with Carly, like what I ultimately discovered was within fear of falling, there are all these like different things that people are afraid of. Like you could be afraid of the sensation of falling itself. You could be afraid of like colliding with the wall. You could be afraid of getting injured. You could be afraid of like failure. There's like all kinds of different things that like fall under that umbrella of fear of falling. And what I found was like the key for me was like I was actually really afraid of trying not to fall because that was like what happened to me.
That was how you got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that totally makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, it took like months of doing all of this like stuff to get to this point of like having that realization. But like once I figured out what it actually was that I was afraid of, it was like so much easier to work around and to like take small steps in the right direction. Because I just like I described earlier, I was just like above a ledge and just like desperately trying not to fall and trying to like weigh all the different options and the ways that I could possibly like not take that fall.
I can relate to that in the sense that the experience you had where you like recognized the consequence like well before it came into play. That's really scary when that happens. And I haven't really had that in climbing, but I don't mountain bike anymore. And the reason I don't mountain bike is I have very bad like object fixation. Like it's an important thing to learn in mountain biking that you like, if there's a route in the trail, in the middle of the trail, like you need to look at the trail around the route and not at the route. And like, I just have a bad habit of like riding my bike into things, and I got hurt too many times. And it's that same thing where it's like in the situation you'd been in, like any of your cognitive load that's going to thinking about the ledge or like panicking about what to do is cognitive load that's like not going to actually figuring out the situation. Or maybe even from the beginning, if you hadn't even like thought about the fall potential of the ledge, maybe you could have like, figured out a better way to go. I mean, that's all kind of water under the bridge to worry about that stuff. But that exact pattern of thinking that you were in is going to be the same pattern of thinking probably that causes fear for you later, is like the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah, exactly. And like that was totally governing my climbing. Like every time I pulled onto the wall, I was trying not to fall. I wasn't trying to climb or like trying to ascend. Like primarily I was trying not to fall, and that other stuff was like secondary.
Yeah. And if the line for you to climb 512 is not just to do the move, like not just to climb it, but you have to get to this much higher peak of like pushing through, not wanting to fall the whole time. It's just like a way higher bar to clear.
Yeah. And like when I reached out to Carly, one of the things that I said I wanted was like I wanted to be able to try hard. And I would see people at the crag, like sometimes they would be on the same route that I was on, and I would climb it like I was soloing. Like people would make that comment about my climbing. And I would see these people just like screaming, and just like barely doing moves. And it was like so sick. And I really wanted to do that. And it was just like so far beyond what I was able to do at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. In motivational interviewing, which is like it's a coaching strategy. It's not just for coaching, but that it's like for therapy and coaching and things that are like that. They say that you have to be like ready, willing, and able to make a change. So it sounds like you were like really interested in it. You even had the tipping point, and then you just basically had to you were like ready and willing, and maybe had to find like the right path in order to be able to like make the change. But I would say 2 practical things we've already talked about for people, because I do try to keep these fairly practical, would be like, number 1, try to figure out the explicit source of your fear. I think that's really valuable for people. And number 2, I think the ready, willing, and able thing is important for fear of falling, because there are going to be people who have had traumatic experiences or maybe are in a situation where they, like if you climb at Smith Rock, if that's your local crag and you are going through really serious fear of falling, ready, willing, and able could be really challenging at crags that are like super scary for sure. Like you might need to do your practice somewhere else before you can get to that point,
Yeah. I will say that like all of this coaching that I did with Carly, I was at the New River Gorge.
Okay.
Which is like notoriously run out, which
nice.
Yeah. At the time I was like, wow, this is extremely poorly timed. And I said that to Carly. I was like, because I was like living in a van at the time, and I was like, should we do this like when I'm in Red Rock or something? And she was like, no. She was like, if you can learn to master your fear at the New, then you can do it anywhere. And I was like,
that's great.
Okay. Yeah. Like I really liked that.
You're not selling me on the annual New trip, but okay, continue.
Just wait until you've been once. You'll be there every year.
Yeah, totally. I'm sure. So what other sort of like practical things for getting over fear of falling can we talk about?
What you were saying before about like how you identify and like what you tell yourself inside your head. Like I put this in my video as well. You have to like change the way that you talk about yourself, like on the inside, Like it's and I think how you speak about yourself on the outside, like kind of dictates that. But yeah, totally. You go around and tell everybody that you're scared, then you are scared. It's not that you like all of a sudden are going to flip a switch and be like, oh, I'm not scared now. But like making that part of your identity and like calling yourself scared instead of saying like, I'm scared on this climb, or like, oh, I find like this fall scary or whatever. If you let that like bleed out into like, I am scared and that's just like who I am, it's like becomes so much harder to like work on. If that makes sense. Yeah,
make it a characteristic of the challenge instead of something about you that's like a flaw in who you are.
Exactly. And I think that people like really look at being scared of falling as like a character flaw. And like it's not a character flaw any more than like not having a very impressive deadlift is. It's just You're just untrained. Like it's nothing to do with like you as a person. You just like haven't spent the time working on it. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I think bringing it back to identity is huge, and I also am a big fan of self-talk. I'm a big fan of self-talk for performance reasons and follow through and execution. Like I think those are things where self-talk really shows up a lot, but it obviously, of course, shows up with fear too. And you kind of mentioned the internal versus external self-talk, and I think it's worth paying attention to both, but the nice thing about stuff that you say out loud is that your partners can pay close attention to it too, if they know that this is something that you want to work on. The internal self-talk I think is a little bit trickier, and people who are like super quiet, who knows what's running through their head, that's something you kind of have to deal with on your own. But either way, you have to find a way to listen to that voice for sure.
Yeah, and I think like, yeah, saying it out loud is a good starting point. It's easier, you know?
Yeah, it's vulnerable.
Yeah. I think fundamentally changing like what you believe is like way harder than just like slightly altering your phrasing, you know? But if you like alter your phrasing enough times and it becomes a habit that you phrase things that way, then like you start to phrase things that way inside your head as well.
Yeah. This is like a perfect example of like cleaning the whole kitchen in my view, instead of just like doing the dishes and like, you know, yeah, I don't know if that, I'm just going to try, I'm just going to beat
No,
that metaphor.
Also, like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's yeah, I guess I made the like 10 tips video because like I felt like these were like the like all of the important things, so it's kind of hard to pick just a few of them.
Yeah, I mean, I want people to go watch the video because it's going to do a better job of talking about this because you laid it out really well in the video. So, yeah, you don't have to give them all here.
Like making it a priority was like really important. Because I noticed that when people talk about fear of falling, it's like, oh yeah, you know, like I should work on this thing, and like people kind of like work on it a little bit, but it will be like an addendum to like their main session. You know? It's like, oh, but I still want to send my project, but then like whenever I have some extra juice, I'll just like work on fear of falling a little bit. And like I think if it's like a real problem, like it was for me, it has to be your like main objective. Like I was like climbing 512 by this point, and my like homework that Carly would have me do would be to climb 510 minus, you know? So like go to the crag and like put projects aside and like performance aside and sending aside. My like whole objective for the day would be like get on 2 510 routes. Don't have to send them, don't have to even get to the chains. Just simply have to like tie in on lead and try. You really have to sacrifice the other things, or like you have to pick one on like 7 million different things at one time, and like really turning that into like this is my project, you know? Like conquering this thing is more important than like sending whatever route it is that I was working on at the time.
It's like not putting the cart before the horse a little bit. Like if the goal, it's really important when you're trying to execute self-change to have like some kind of vision for what that self-change look like. So like you knew that you saw these other people at the crag, you knew that you wanted to be like a more confident climber. You had gone to Carly and she was like, yes, we can do that. So you had some sense of like where you could be. And I think when you bear that stuff in mind, it's maybe a little bit easier to be like, going to the crag today is not about trying to be a 12B climber who needs to work the route for 8 days on top rope. It's about trying to be a 510 climber who feels confident on 510 so that I can be a 513 climber in a few years, right? Yes. And it is like a one step back, 2 steps forward kind of situation.
Totally. But yeah, like what you were saying about being like willing and able, you really have to be willing to like take those steps back. But yeah, it feels like a step back, that's for sure. Also, like, you know how you were saying like it was good to have somewhere that I had somewhere where I had a destination in mind. Yeah. Also, my like main climbing partner at the time, who is still my main climbing partner and life partner actually, he is really bold, and he was really bold at the time. And he like presented this idea to me that scary was something that like could be desirable. Because like at the time, I was like, why isn't everything grid bolted? Like, why is stuff bolted like this? Like, this is fucked up. Like, what's wrong with people? We live in like, you know, 2000 and whatever. It's not the 80s. And he was like, dude, you can't sanitize climbing. Like, people value this stuff. And, you know, there's like all of this variety and you get to choose what it is that like you want to do. But you can't be like wanting to take the spice factor away for people who value it. And I was like,
totally.
People value that? I was like, what are you talking about? Didn't even know that was... Yeah, I knew about trying hard, and yeah, I knew that I was really scared, but I don't think I had ever even considered the flip side of the equation, which is like, well, that can be something that you like seek out and is like actually fun.
Yeah. And well, I mean, that's like, you just can't even see that far from being at the low point of like being afraid of even being on lead on anything. Like, you need to get to a much higher place before you can see the horizon. You know what I mean? Like, when you're in a valley, you just can't see very far at all. Like, you need to get higher before you understand that, like, yeah, there are cool places on the horizon where like scary climbing can be fun. Even if you think when you're down there that scary climbing could never be fun.
Totally. And like, it just made me feel like I thought that I had a 10K race to do, you know? And like the end of the 10K race was not being scared when I was like trying to send my like very safely bolted project on lead. But like really, when I saw, I guess, how far, like where this person was, I was like, oh, the distance I have to cover is like actually not that great, you know? It like made it more achievable because I was like, well, I'm only actually really trying to go from here to here. I'm not trying to like gnarly highballs necessarily, even though that's like where I ended up like being psyched.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll say this for anybody who finds this stuff just interesting, and I don't know, maybe they struggle with their fear, it's they don't, but like highballing has been some of the most fun and fulfilling climbing that I've ever done, and I do not like the feeling of being like 20 feet off the ground. It's really scary. I know that it's super risky. I know my mom hates it. Mm-hmm. It's just like, I'm not doing it because of any of that stuff. I'm doing it because the feeling of mastering it and doing it anyway is like very, very satisfying and compelling in a way that's just hard to describe.
Totally.
And I mean, I'm sort of lucky in the sense that I like started and I thought the aesthetics were cool, and the people I started with just highballed without like talking about it like it was anything special, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it can be such a cool part of climbing, not because it's scary, but because you have a self-control and a mastery that's just intrinsically satisfying.
Exactly. It's just like I guess for me, like because I am more of a sport climber than a boulderer, I'm like more into doing like spicy run out sport climbs. But yeah, it just demands another layer from you. You know, it's not just about like, can you do the moves? It's like, can you control your mind such that you are like still able to do the moves? And like, if it's sufficiently hard, which is like, in my opinion, where the real like fun, satisfying parts are, is like, you can't overpower it or overgrip it or make it super secure so that you're not going to take that fall. Like, you really have to
I can try.
Okay, I can't.
Yeah. Your point stands.
Yeah. When I do this stuff, like when I leave the ground, I am like willing to take that fall. You know, I hope that I don't, but I am willing to take it. And like that's like I love that feeling of being like, yeah, just like so in the moment and like flexing all of the different parts of the brain, if that makes sense.
It's just there's like a point where you want to turn all the dials up. You know, like you don't want just the physical dial to be super high and the mental dial to actually be at like 1 out of 10. I actually don't think that that's like the experience that people want most of the time out of climbing. It's like fun when all of the dials are, when it is emotionally intense and a little bit mentally intense and a little bit physically intense. Like well, maybe you don't want it to be socially intense. You kind of want that dial to be as low as possible, but yeah.
Yeah, although, like, I do, you know, just to caveat this, I do think that, like, for a lot of people, that just isn't for them, you know? Mm-hmm. And, like, that's okay, too. Like, there are plenty of people who I climb with who are like, no, I just want this to be safe, and, like, I don't want it to be, like, scary. I have no interest in doing run-out things. I have no interest in doing highballs. Like, that's cool that you like that. Not for me. But, yeah, I love that.
I've also met a lot of people who have the same story as you, where like when you were at your low point, you never probably would have thought that would be something for you, and then it actually turned out to be. And I've heard that same story, I think, quite a few times. But yeah, there's always the possibility. But it's like, even for those people who would never want to be deliberately seeking out runouts or like deliberately doing highballs, that's totally fine. The question is like, do you want to feel just actualized and motivated and like capable of showing up at the crag and just getting on the routes that look fun and like feeling like you're showing up to a high percentage of your potential? Like, that's the question, really, you know. And it doesn't have to be scary climbing, but if you're okay with scary climbing, it's just a lot easier to say yes to that question. Yeah,
because like everybody's limited by like some part of their climbing, right? It's like, broadly speaking, there's like physical, technical, and mental. And like, if you are scared or if you're like thinking about the fall when you're climbing, like that is absolutely limiting you. And it's like influencing your choices.
Do you have any more tips for the people?
For fear of falling, the last thing that I wanted to say was like, one, it helps to have a supportive partner who, you know, will like, if you go up something and get really scared and bail, they'll go up and clean the drawers for you. But if you don't have that, and even if you do, because like it's nice to be self-reliant, like get a bail beaner and get a stick clip and like be prepared to use them, you know?
Nice. But yeah, there is this stereotype of like, if you don't have the strong partner, then you're going to wind up like stick clipping up the roots. Like, that's a thing that happens at a lot of crags. And just to be clear, I think that's like 100% a valid tactic, but it can also be like a pretty extreme crutch. And I guess it's like, do you feel like there's kind of an irony that you wound up building a device that's for that exact purpose? I know that we're like veering into that topic now.
So I guess like the device, as you call it, that I made.
The device.
I actually made for projecting, but it was only like kind of after I had it in my hands and I was using it that I was like, man, this would have been amazing to have when I was like working on my head. Well, should I say what the device is before we get to
Yes,
it?
introduce the device.
Yeah, okay, so the device is the small stick, which is like a super small and lightweight stick clip that you can wear on your harness. It's like the size of a quick drawer and about the weight of a quick drawer. And the idea is that like you can take falls with it. Like, I mean, theoretically you can take falls with like the small Trango beta stick, but like nobody wants to do that. It just like doesn't feel good. So I wanted something that like you actually don't even notice is on your harness. So you can like get on hard routes, you know, try the crux, fall a bunch of times, be like, I don't understand what to do. And then without having to like go in direct and drop a loop of rope and like haul up a giant stick clip that you now have to like clip onto the route or whatever. Or just being like, well, I can't do it and lowering off. Now you can just like super easily just like clip the next bolt and figure out those moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty slick. I mean, I've tried a few different variations of this device, and I have definitely hauled up a full-size painter pole. Actually, yeah, I might as well just tell the whole story. I was on like a 12D at Smith, and I was kind of exploring it to see if it was something I wanted to send. It was like a rope stretching pitch, and kind of in classic Smith style. It was like a newly developed thing. I think it's at the Monument, it's at the Monument. Classic Smith style. It's like as you get closer to the top of the wall, the bolts just get progressively more spaced out and the rock gets worse, which is just like, I was not enjoying it. It was a very cold day. The rock was like surprisingly bad in between the bolts, and I was like, I'm going to haul up this painter pole and just get to the top of the route so that I can like see if this section is as scary as I think it is, because it was like, you know, it was like probably good holds, but like crumbly and not something that I was like particularly psyched on for like exploring the route.
Was it also like vert?
Yeah, like vert, yeah. Where, you know, where like breaking a hold could be like legitimately dangerous, but also just unpleasant. And I hauled up like, you know, a 6 foot times 3 painter's pole up, you know, probably 80 feet or something like that.
Oh my God.
It didn't reach the next draw. The next draw was too far away for me to clip into it from there. And it took so long to do this whole thing. You know, and that was not a tactic that I employed very often, even in my Smith days. Still not something that I do terribly often. But that experience, basically for me, I was just like, I am not going to do this anymore. Like, I'm not going to stick clip up routes. I'm either going to be able to like press on lead and like find my way to the next bolt, or I'm going to press on and take a fall. But I basically like decided at that point that I was not going to haul up I was never going to haul up a painter's pole again until you sent this thing to me. And I was like,
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
The thing is, for me, like, that was a bit of a signal at the time that I was just we don't need to go here in this podcast, but I was in the midst of I'm not having that much fun climbing at Smith Rock, like, era. And there's a time and a place for scary climbing, but if the rock is bad, I want the bolts to be closer together, personally. And if I have no problem with somebody developing a route like that, I just don't want to climb it. You know what I mean? In that particular case, it was just like a confluence of factors, but it was a wake-up call for me that like I either needed to become a more confident leader, or it wasn't like the place for me to try to express my like physicality, basically, right? And there's like plenty of other routes at Smith for me to climb. So I had a bad experience with the painter pole, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not doing this with the painter pole again.
Haven't we all been there though? Like, I've done that, you know? Yeah, I've absolutely like hauled a painter's pole up a route, and like, it's dangerous, you know? Like, yeah. I have dropped a stick clip off a route. Not a painter's pole, but like one of the Trango ones. And like, something like that falling from height, especially if it's like a painter's pole or something, like, you could kill someone, like very javelin, easily. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And I don't like I don't like, it's like you either have to use 2 bolts to create some redundancy for yourself while you go in direct to haul it up, or you're indirect on 1 bolt. And like in that case, I was really far off the ground. So I definitely, if that bolt had failed, I would have decked. And that's Absolutely. Just like, that's just not acceptable to me, really. Yeah.
And it's a total faff. And I feel like you are asking something of your belayer when you do that too. You're like, hey, totally. Do you mind if I like drop a loop of rope? And they're like, you know, depending on how many times you've done this, speaking from personal experience here, they may or may not, like, if you don't do it that often, it's not a big deal. But if you're somebody who does this all the time, like, it kind of sucks to belay that all the time. You know, they're like, just do the moves, man, or like try something easier.
I mean, for me, and I think I probably should have said this earlier in the fear of falling conversation. I'm not sure why I waited until now to say it, but I'm not the most confident sport climber. It's not like, even if I came to the new with you, I would be afraid to come to the new with you because I would worry that you would think less of me. You know what I mean? Like, I can climb 5'10" confident. I can onside 510 confidently, and I can do like pretty good on most 511s. But like once the moves start to get like a little bit challenging, like it's hard for me when the terrain gets really tricky. Not in a way that it's something that I've never confronted or that I don't think I can deal with. It just takes a lot. It takes gumption and like deliberate effort, the same kind of effort that we were talking about earlier, for me to like get to that point. And so these kind of tools are tricky for me. Like it's definitely something that I want to have around, but it's also something that I feel like has to be used in like a specific way. I'm sure that's something you thought about, like building the thing too.
For sure. Like it wasn't built with the intention for like somebody to portable top rope, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was definitely built to be used like for those occasions where you're like, I cannot do this move. I keep freaking falling here. I don't even know where the next hold is. Maybe it rained and there's like not chalk on there and you're just like, man, I am completely stumped. It was like intended for those situations. But of course, like people could and like should use it however they see fit, I guess. Personally, like I know when I'm chickening out on something, you know? Like it feels very different. Like if you're just like honest with yourself, like, and sometimes it's like you can't ask yourself to be brave like every single day of your life all the time. You know, like sometimes you have like stuff going on in your personal life or like work is stressful or whatever. And you're like, today I don't really feel like going and taking a bunch of falls, and like giving yourself the grace to like do that sometimes is like also valid. But then there are the times when you're like, I really should do this, you know, and you're like, am I gonna do it? And then you know, if on those occasions you're like, nah, I'm just gonna stick clip, I feel like then you're kind of getting into that territory of like not keeping your sword sharp or like trying to sharpen it, just really putting the sword away entirely.
Putting the sword away. Yeah, the sword is in the scabbard. Yeah. I sort of surprised myself with this, but there's a little crag here in Leavenworth where I was trying a project last summer, and there's like a project next to the one that I was trying, and they actually can like link into each other. And I don't think the other one has been tried, but it has a bolt at the base, and I just like used the small stick and like self belayed and like was able to clip up the project and like look at it, and just for that purpose, like I've done that same thing with a painter's pole before when I was like bolting roots back when I lived in Oregon. Like if I was bolting a root and I just needed to get to a bolt that I had put in before, I would use a painter's pole to like get up to it, and then I would usually just like javelin the painter pole to the ground, exactly like we were talking about. This is like close to the ground, nobody at the crag, to be clear. But the small stick is like insanely convenient for that. Like it still takes a lot of effort, mostly because I hadn't done it before, but now that I like know how to do it, it's like pretty convenient to clip yourself up a root, and people should get mentorship from someone on how to do that before they don't just go out to the crag and try to do this. I think it takes a little bit of practice, but this thing is literally the size of a quick draw, so for something like that it's like pretty damn convenient.
Yeah, honestly, like my partner and I made this thing together. Like I was the one who wanted to make it, and he has a machine shop, so he had the like physical, and he's an engineer, so he had the like physical capability to make it. But like the reason that we made this is because like I wanted it. I was like, why does this not exist? Like I tried to buy one, I couldn't find one, and I was like, this is insane. Like this, like yeah, I don't know, it just seemed like a no-brainer that something like this would be like super, super helpful. And then we made it, and I was like, I feel like other people would like this too. And then we made more.
It's pretty cool to have like a vision for a little widget that you want, and your partner is just like, oh, I have a thing that I can craft that with.
So cool. Yeah, absolutely. I was like, wow, this is like kind of incredible. You know, it's not like I'm going to the hardware store and getting like duct tape and glue and like Frankensteining something. He's like, oh, you want me to just like CNC machine you this thing? I'm like, yeah.
For sure. I was like, ooh, I'll follow Ryman on Instagram, maybe. Or sorry, am I allowed to say his name on here?
Yeah,
yeah. I was like, I'll follow Ryman on Instagram and like get a glimpse behind the curtain of like how stuff is made with a CNC machine, and he just posts like absolutely unintelligible. I have no idea what he's talking about. Is this what it's like when people follow climbers who don't climb? Like, I do not know what this is. They're tricky, those CNC machines. Apparently, I don't know what any of that stuff is. Yeah.
Some of my like extended family in New Zealand will like watch my YouTube videos, and then they'll be like, we really like support you, but like what are you talking about?
Is there a through line between making videos for YouTube and making the small stick? Like is it the same like creative impulse, do you think?
Ooh, the small stick doesn't feel especially creative. Yeah. The small stick feels more like utilitarian, you know? I'm like, I want tool. I make tool. Now I sell tool.
Yeah, at this point, though, how many of them have you guys made?
Small sticks?
Yeah.
I can find out. I can find out how many we've sold, at least. Maybe I shouldn't say that.
You say whatever you want.
Yeah, we have over 500 like orders at this point.
Okay, cool.
For small sticks, yeah. And they've gone all over the world.
That's more than just fulfilling your urge to have one on your own harness. That's like you've made a thing and put it into the world for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, so like I'm from New Zealand and I went to New Zealand for Christmas just recently. And like I met people at the Crag who like had heard of the small stick and who had a friend who had one and who actively wanted to buy one.
Whoa, cool.
I know.
Yeah.
They came up to me and they were like, "Are you Hayley?" And I was like, "What?" Yeah,
the
super
world is
cool.
so small sometimes.
It's so small. Yeah. So it does feel really, really cool to have like created this physical thing. Because like, yeah, YouTube stuff is all intangible, right? And it's just me sitting in a room by myself for like extended periods of time. But this is like an actual physical thing that we like ship around the world. And then these people use it and like email me back and say nice things about like how it helped them like send their first 512. It's really, really, really cool. Like super rewarding.
Yeah. It is. I mean, obviously that reminds me of like, my coaching, and I've had similar interactions with people that are just like, it's not why I started doing it, but then like later, when people are like, oh, I like read your whatever content on this thing and it like made me think about this thing, and you're like, oh shit, people are actually like reading the things that people are actually like using the things that I make. Like that's amazing. Like who knew that the people out there were real? Yeah. The imposter syndrome runs deep, I suppose. Yeah.
Totally. It feels like I totally have that with YouTube, right? Like there's just anonymous, well, they're not anonymous, but it's just like disembodied comments, I suppose. But then I will meet people who watch my videos in the real world, and that makes it all feel more real. But like with the small stick, when somebody orders something, like you have a physical address that you're like mailing this to, and someone's going to like open it with their hands, like an actual human.
Yeah. Just think of like, I mean, I've thought of the same thing. It's like how many, if you just tally up all the climbers who have used the small stick, like how many sends can be like attributed to at some point, like some use. And I've had the same thought about my coaching and my clients. It's like, how many routes have I, and like boulders have I like touched? You know what I mean? Like, it's just a cool, I don't know, I'm tooting my own horn a little bit, but it's like satisfying to think the impact that somebody can have just by like having a creative impulse at some point. What was the impulse that made you start your YouTube channel?
So for work, I am a writer. So like words, like the written word. And before YouTube, I had a blog. I still have a blog, but I don't really, it's not very active these days. And I really liked writing blog posts, but I also understand that video and like social media is where everybody's attention is. And I just I don't even really know how to describe it. I just felt compelled to share some of the things that I'd learned, especially having gone through this whole fear of falling stuff. And I'd had that thought, and then when you were coaching me, I decided to do this focusing on climbing year that we called Full Tilt Boogie.
Project Full Tilt Boogie.
Where I put climbing before everything else, including work. And it just seemed well, if I'm ever going to do this, now's the time. Let's just throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. Yeah. It's
cool. It's it was very documentarian, video log, kind of classic climbing YouTube, modern climbing YouTube. Until the fear of falling one, and then I feel the character of your channel has changed a little bit. I think you just haven't been making as many videos because you've been busy with the small stick thing too, it seems like. But the fear of falling video, obviously a banger. And we should say the name of your channel. It's 512 and Beyond.
512 and Beyond, yeah. I know.
You just sent your first 513, so the name is starting to lose its luster a little bit. You feel like you're going to have to rename the channel? 514 and Beyond.
I've heard that so many times, but 513 and Beyond just doesn't have the same ring to it, It also
well,
feels
you're already
more
at 513, so yeah.
Yeah, but it's it's not really, I don't know how to describe it. It just doesn't feel as broadly applicable.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
If I was climbing 511 and I came across a channel that was called 513 and Beyond, I wouldn't be like, that's me.
Well, I feel like the fear of falling video is so it's approachable because the channel is called 512 and Beyond a little bit. Whereas how to deal with your, so I love Hazel Finley. I would love to have Hazel Finley on the podcast. Hazel, if you're listening, please come on the podcast. But when you watch Hazel Finley climb, you're like, it's hard to relate that back to like a normal person who's struggling on a 5'8", even though I know Hazel could communicate extremely well with somebody who's climbing a 5'8". You know, you just see this fearless person, and she's not fearless, I'm sure, but it looks fearless. You know what I mean? And so somebody who says 5'12" and beyond, you're kind of like, well, she's trying to climb 5'12". Like, she probably is like the common man,
normal human.
I mean?
Yeah, totally. That was actually like a big like impetus in like starting my channel, because I feel like I didn't start climbing young, like at all, you know, like I was 28, and I've sent some stuff that I'm like kind of proud of and made a lot of progress. And I wanted to put that into the public sphere, that like you don't have to start climbing when you're like 16, or like have all of these like special things that like line up or whatever. Like if you just make it a priority and like put some work into it, you can like do some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. I think that is an important thing for people to understand. We did also just say that you had a year where you put it in front of everything else in your life, including your job.
True.
So you...
It's true. It is a privilege to be able to do that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, I think that's a big step to take, and it shows a part of your identity, or like a part of your willingness to commit to the goal. And I feel like Full Tilt Boogie, I don't know. How do you feel like it actually panned out? I don't know what the actual dates were. How much did Full Tilt Boogie overlap with the year of pain?
It was almost entirely an overlap.
Okay.
Yeah. I got my first injury at the start of May, so we had like 4 months of like actually doing that as intended. And then it kind of turned into the year of YouTube, because I just got super injured and couldn't climb, and so just poured all of that like energy into making YouTube videos.
Yeah, what happened? What happened with the year of pain? This string of injuries. Let's recount it.
Okay, I had 4 major injuries in 1 year, one after the other. And 3 of those 4 injuries did not come from climbing, but inhibited me climbing. First, I ran into a door inside my apartment and like catastrophically broke my pinky toe.
This is how it happens. It's always some shit like this. I'm going to commit completely to climbing this year. I'm going to make it my number 1 priority. Kicks a door and breaks her pinky toe.
Yeah, like I'm going to get so much rest. I'm going to manage my training volume. I'm just going to run into a door. Then rehabbed the toe, went to 10 sleep. I think I was like 5 days into the 10 sleep trip when I fell in the river. If you've been to 10 sleep, like the river crossing on the way to FCR, the water was super high. I guess it had like rained recently. And yeah, fell in the river and really messed up my finger. I had like a grade 2 collateral ligament strain in my in my DIP joint.
Yeah. Was there a avulsion fracture or?
Nope. No fracture.
No, okay, no fracture.
Just like
okay.
a...
Yeah, what?
Yeah, just
hold on a second, though, because you skipped something that happened in those 5 days, right? So you had the toe injury. You went to 10 sleep, like, fresh off the toe injury.
Yes. Onsighted my first 512 at 10 sleep, which was sick. Yeah. That was, like, life goals, you know? Like, little me who dreamed of, like, one day maybe sending one 12A ever. Yeah. Being able to, like, on-site one.
This is cool.
Incredible.
Like, at this point in the year of Full Tilt Boogie, which is, already starting to like bounce down the tracks. It's not like fully off the tracks yet, but I'm watching this client like break their toe and then like bounce back from breaking their toe and onsite their first 512, and I'm like, fuck yeah, this is like the beginning. This is like the beginning of the most epic comeback from this like accidental toe fracture. And then you send me this picture of your finger, and it's just like blue and like really gnarly looking, swollen. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Yeah.
It was an emotional roller coaster of a year, that's for sure. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, so the finger, continue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The finger, went back to Vegas, where I live, rehabbed the finger. Like, all of these were basically like, I kind of just got back into like being able to try hard again. Like I'd maybe been able to try hard for like a week or 2 when the next thing happened. So yeah, rehabbed the finger, got back to feeling like, it's still not 100% by the way, it's still like kind of finicky, but got back to being able to try hard, and then hurt my knee with you, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Moe's. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was in December of that year. So it was like May was the toe, August was the finger, December was the knee. And that injury was also kind of a freak injury. I like banged it on a boulder when my foot picked, which like is fairly common and, like kind of hurt, but didn't think that much of it, kept climbing. And then later on in the evening when I was like making the bed on the fold out couch, I like rotated moving pillows and like torqued my kneecap against like the perpetual lump in every fold-out couch ever. And yeah, like actually injured my knee.
Again, when you like told me that you hurt your knee, I was like, I actually just kind of like didn't even believe it in this case. I was like, I really don't think that you actually injured your knee on a pull-out couch.
You were like, it's gonna be fine. Like nothing really happened. Like give it a couple days. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And then I was like, oh fuck, this is like
not actually good. Fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh. Rehabbed that. Then I was climbing in the gym in March, and this was like the only injury I actually got climbing, and I like popped my meniscus in the same knee, which was not the same injury. I had hurt like a ligament earlier. Yeah,
it's crazy how, you know, those are all freak accidents, but you put them all like back to back to back, and that would be, I think a lot of people would just be like kind of over it and like stop trying to climb. But in each case, you like got pretty back to normal like right before the next one happened. Like what's running through your mind when you're on like injury number 3 in a row?
I guess like so the first one I was like, this is bizarre, like what, crazy, you know, like what are the chances? Didn't think that much of it, just like, you know, persevered. And like second one I was like, man, wild, can't believe that happened. By injury number 3 I was just like, shit, like is this my life now, or do I just like get injured again and again? And I'm like, nope, you know, like they always say, what's that saying about like things come in threes, good things come in threes and bad things come in threes? I was like, okay, cool, I've had 3, like that's very unlucky, but like yeah, I'm going to finish this and then maybe I won't be injured for like a few years. And then when the 4th one happened, I was like broken for like a weekend. I just was just like, I can't do it again. Like it's...
Can't deal with it. Well, that one actually came from climbing, right?
Yeah. And
yeah, I mean, that's the... Like if you told me that if somebody was like, I'm going to spend this year like really dedicated to climbing, and then later they're like, it actually didn't work out that great, I got injured 4 times, I'd be like, that's maybe not that surprising. But then if they were like, well, actually, most of the injuries were unrelated to climbing, yeah, that just starts to seem like bad luck for sure.
Yeah. I mean, anybody who's been injured knows like how frustrating it is and how it's like slow, and you just have to be like really patient. And after doing that over and over again and, you know, like holding out hope, having like the 4th strike, yeah, that like really, really, really sucked.
I feel like this is like, you were going through a lot of this. You were starting to climb more 512s. After your injury, you came back and climbed 513, which we kind of like danced around. And I guess I said it explicitly, but yeah, good job. Came back from all the injuries, climbed 513. Thanks. But I feel like in those days, like during Full Tilt Boogie, like you were really trying to start to perform at a higher level. You start like take your climbing more seriously, continuously, just like more performance, more like execution mindset and stuff. And there was like a switch I feel like flipped for you not that long before that time, where you started basically just focusing more on slab, I would say, and also just like coming into your own as like having an area of your climbing that you felt like you owned or you had like mastery of. Can you just talk more about that process?
Sure. Yeah. Like I guess slab isn't that cool, right? I mean, I guess it's like getting cooler these days, especially with like Anna Hazelnut. Hero. But slab like was never presented to me as like something that was like cool or worthy or anything. So I just like didn't really slab climb that much. And now I know that like slab climbing is what is like natural and intuitive to me, and power climbing and crimping and all that kind of stuff is much less so. However, that is all I tried to do for the first like number of years of my climbing. Consequently, that like I was just like a person who climbing didn't come naturally to. You know, I would see people come to the gym and they would just like be able to like intuit these things that had taken me forever, like, you know, so much trial and error, or like hours long explanations from my partner, just like, you know, really going into like the nitty gritty and like trying to get me to understand how this stuff works. And it was just like so foreign and obvious to me for like years and years. And then I went to Smith Rock on a climbing trip, you know, land of like slab vert tech. And I like, in that 1-2 week trip, I like matched my hardest red point, upped my on-site grade, and upped my flash grade. And like I'd never been there before. And it was the first time in my life I like felt flow while climbing. I would just be like going up a wall, and there would be like a hand exactly where I wanted there to be a hand, and there would be a foot exactly where I wanted there to be a foot. And I just felt like I was like dancing up the wall. And like, I didn't know that that's how climbing felt for other people, because I never felt like that for me. And so I had like a big like aha moment. It wasn't that like climbing didn't come naturally to me. It's just that like the things that do seem to come naturally to other people, like maybe like power or crimping or, you know, the more common, I guess, like angles and styles were naturally like harder for me. And then slab, which was not that sick. Jim, don't agree with that, you know, just like public perception.
I think you're right. I think that generally it just gets the short end of the stick for sure.
Yeah, but it's so cool.
Yeah, it can be. I just think it's like the character of it has changed a lot too. So like I started climbing outside at Smith Rock. It's like the maybe third place I ever climbed outside, but like the first real climbing trip I ever went on was like to Smith Rock from Southern Oregon. And so I think I took it for granted for a really long time. But also like when I started climbing, all the low angle terrain in the gym was dedicated to like crimping and small edges and like small feet and like the occasional bigger sloper hold, but like the biggest one would be like the size of, you know, maybe a volleyball or something like that. And so slab and vert climbing inside was very similar to slab and vert climbing outside. And I feel like that's like much less true now. Like slab climbing in the gym, like I feel like slab climbing in the gym is very foreign to me now, and I have to like try quite hard and like think it through, and I'm often mentally taxed and stuff. So there's even like an inside outside like slab distinction, and I don't know this for sure because I've never done a poll, but my instinct is that a lot of people who say they don't like slab don't like competition slab too, specifically. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just like not cool to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I also feel like slab and comp slab are like, they should just be two separate like categories, you know? Like there's not a whole lot of common ground there.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that like it's natural to not like things that we're not good at or that don't like feel natural to us. And I think that just like how it is in that like slab doesn't come naturally to most people, and it's much more common to like have strong fingers or like have like really good natural raw power or like have good movement intuition or whatever. I think like the people that slab does just like come naturally to are kind of like few and far between. So like the general experience of slab is just like discomfort, you know? And then like you look over and you see your friend who's also finding it like uncomfortable, and you're like, yeah, man, this sucks. Like let's go climb the thing that like we're comfortable on and that like feels good and like we can like throw down on.
Yeah. What do you think it is about you as a climber that just makes slab like more intuitive or natural for you?
Well, part of it definitely has to come from like dance. So as you know, like I did ballet and jazz and contemporary, but like to a quite serious level when I was growing up. Like I was like probably dancing like 25 hours a week when I was in high school, and I wanted to be a professional. That was like my objective back then. And yeah, dumb me, like never thought that any of that stuff would be like useful in rock climbing. Turns out slab is like a lot about toe strength and balance and like ability to be delicate and to not like, this is kind of like this is getting very niche, but like when you are dancing, like especially like ballet, like classical ballet, it is a pretty big physical effort, but it's an art, right? So you are presenting at the same time, and it's meant to look effortless. So part of the skill of like being a good ballet dancer is your ability to make all of that like hard work look effortless. And I think that like that skill is actually kind of helpful for slab, because you're like trying really hard. I'm not saying that like I look effortless when I climb, but I'm like trying really hard, but I'm also not allowing myself to like pant so much that I lose my balance. You know what I mean? It's like you still have to like remain composed, and you can't just be like barely hanging on in the same way that you can on steeps.
Totally. I think the word composed, I think, really captures something that like when you watch very proficient climbers on low angle terrain, I mean on steep terrain too, but like low angle terrain, especially scary climbing, especially like on sighting. So, like there was a video of Babs doing Freerider. I don't know, did you see that video? But it's like anybody who hasn't seen it, definitely go watch it. Like every time I get a chance to watch a video of her climbing, it's just so impressive. She looks so composed, you know, for it being first try and like, you know, terrain she's never been on before. It's just super impressive. But I think that's probably a similar thing to like what you're talking about in dance, is like you have to look like you know what you're doing, and like it's deliberate and everything is very like, yeah. I'm sure there are other aspects that carry over, like full body coordination and stuff like that too. But yeah, a lot of it I'm sure is just the toes as well. Yeah. I've never done any ballet, so I don't really know.
Yeah, well, like here, that foot pump is a thing. You know, people talk about, like, I get pumped in my arms, but my feet don't get pumped. Like my legs, like my calves don't get pumped.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's definitely been a thing for me at Smith. I've talked about this on the pod before. Like a lot of the time, I would rehearse things in stiffer shoes because I'd be on the wall for so long, and then as I got the route like more and more and more dialed, I would wear softer shoes so I could climb faster and be more sensitive. But yeah, I definitely have memories of like toe pain and calf pump from 20-minute red points at Smith. So if you were prepared for that, if you were conditioned for that from a young age, I could see that being valuable.
Yeah, because like on slab, like you can often like you often get more rests compared to like steep stuff, or like rests that you can hang out at longer. If your feet aren't pumped, you can kind of just like stand there as long as you need to. I won't say that it's not painful because like it still does hurt, but like it's just about tolerating the pain, not like your feet or at least my feet, like not actually giving out. And I think that
I mean, I have like a very distinct memory of like, I can't tell you what route, but like routes at Smith where I would get to, you know, a hold that was like a 20 mil edge and then like climb past it so that my feet are on that edge. And like instead of resting hanging on the edge, like you climb until your feet are on it, and then I'll stand sideways. Like I'll put my heels on it because my toes are so freaking tired, you know, and like sometimes I could even like stand like a penguin, like externally rotate both, you know, so just on both heels and like standing as close to the wall as you possibly can. Like try to let your feet deep up a little bit. Yeah, Smith.
Totally. Yeah.
Crazy.
If it's like good enough, I'll even like pop, like I wear solutions, so like they're Velcro, and I'll like pop my heels out of my shoes. Like sometimes it'll be one foot at a time.
Wow. Yeah.
Just to like
that's tactics.
Yeah, that's actually my partner says that like if it doesn't have a rest where I can like pop my heels out of my shoes, like it's not a good project for me. Because I love to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't do that on
like
steep so much. Yeah.
Part of your psyche now. Trying to think of the right segue. Yeah.
I have slab tips.
Thing that
if you want them.
Yeah, no, I want to do slab tips. I was trying to think of like there's something about you figuring out that like slab was something that you should put more effort into. And just like I think the way you put it in our pre-interview is like you realized you were good at something in climbing. You were like, "Oh, I have a superpower basically." Like in my intake form for clients, I always ask them like, do you know what your climbing superpowers are? Like what things you have that you're like, you know, if you want to climb your hardest grade, like what are you going to try to make it about, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like I remember going through those same things for myself and kind of realizing like, okay, like these things fit my body well, or I'm like naturally good at this, or I'm like interested in this. I think that's really valuable too, even if you're not like built for it necessarily. Like I'm not built for like Waco style 3D roof climbing, but I just really, really like it. And so I still consider it a superpower, even though I probably never climb super hard in that style.
Endless psych. Totally.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, it seems like you kind of just stumbled on that accidentally. Is there anything you can say about the realization or about like being open to it or anything? Do you have any suggestions for people who are trying to figure out what they're good at?
Ooh. I guess definitely like experiment with all of the styles. People would always tell me like, you know, I would ask people like, how do I get better at climbing? And they would be like, don't climb slab. Like literally. They'd be like, yeah, when you're in the gym, like don't be on the slab wall, be on like the physically demanding angles that like you get stronger fingers and like your body gets stronger and stuff.
Yeah.
But like it could be slab, the thing that you're good at. If you feel like you're not good at anything, like it certainly could be slab. I also think that like you absolutely can have strengths that aren't like movement specific, you know? Like
what do you mean?
You could have you could have like a really good head game. I wrote down some examples of these actually.
Yeah, and I feel like by the way, part of the reason that you had such a positive experience at Smith and you were like, wow, I'm really good at something is because you have a very good handle on like your lead head. Like that is, in my view of having climbed at Smith for like 15 years or whatever, like that's probably more important than liking slab, but that's my personal bias.
Yeah. I guess like removing obstacles also, right? Because like until you've like kind of cleared all this crap out the way, you can't like really see what it is that you're working with. But yeah, other things that could be head game, beta memory, like being able so like this is something that I like inherited in my climbing from dancing as well. Like I'm really good at remembering beta because I spent 20 years remembering choreography.
Yeah,
and like
it's dead on. Same thing.
Going to like dance camp things and they teach you like 8 counts and you watch it one time and then you do it one time and then you perform it. And then they teach you the next 8 count and you do that for like 4 hours straight and you have like a song and like then you like get broken into small groups and you have to perform this thing that you've just learned. And yeah, like being able to remember beta, like download beta quickly and like remember it and then execute it like within the same session just saves you so much time. you know, like...
And you're saying you mean download cerebrally, not like
Yes.
download to your phone. Yeah.
Yeah, download cerebrally. And I do think that that's something that people like often don't pay that much attention to, you know? Like especially on like sport routes, like I think sometimes it's kind of like, well, I'll just climb this enough times until it feels like second nature and then I'll send it. But like I will deliberately, each time I climb it, I'll like, you know, memorize like another part of the route. And I'll like run through my sequence in my head and I'll like make notes and stuff. So
very,
like
very common trait of high-level climbers is like they can recite the route later, and they do recite the route. They're getting way more reps. It's like they're talking about the route. They're thinking about it before they go to bed. They're visualizing it. They have like a procedure for all that stuff. It's just more reps than other people get, for sure.
Yeah. I also put tenacity and like discipline, because like, what's the saying? It's like there's no amount of talent that like hard work can't beat. Have you heard that one?
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
it's like,
who said it, but...
Neither. Maybe, like, you know, maybe there isn't some, like, part of climbing that you're naturally good at, but maybe you just, like, really fucking care and you put in, like, a huge amount of time and effort and, like, you can get very far by doing that. Like, in any part of life, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think what we're all looking for in climbing. So it's like there's a couple different ways to think about, like, trying to achieve higher performance. And you probably want to take all of them into account if you're really going to like hit your true limits, right? Because it's like if you just want the highest number, then I assume you go to the place with the lowest grades, but you could also go to the place that like suits you the best, right? Mm-hmm. And like hopefully we all want like to be challenged and stuff too, and it's not just about like trying to get the hardest thing for the least input. You know, you also want to have a good meeting point of the things that you're good at and the things that area challenges. And that's what's so cool about that Smith Rock trip. To me, is like, yeah, you realize that generally you're good at slabs. So it's like you have this thing that you can bring fold into your identity, right? But also like the fear of falling thing was working for you. The place was working for you. You were also like on-sighting and red pointing, like all the disciplines were working for you. That it was firing on all cylinders in like a way where it was like, oh, like this is why I do it. Like my personal experience with that is like realizing I'm very good at compression climbing. I am very good at like memorizing beta, very good at body power, all this stuff, and like coming up here and climbing on the rock here and just over the years realizing like, oh, actually this like suits me quite well. Like this is something that I can take really, really far. And then I moved here, right? It's just like the logical sort of next step is like you just put yourself closer to that. That's how you move yourself closer to your potential for sure. So you can go both ways. I got a lot of value out of living other places where I was not. Like, I'm not good at the climbing around Bend. I just learned a lot and struggled a lot and eventually got better at it.
I kind of feel like I have the best of both worlds here because winter season is like sandstone, like, you know, red rock kind of chossy sandstone, which is not something that I'm good at. It's like about crimping and being powerful and then having endurance in both of those. But then summertime is all limestone, which is like way more tech and like vert or gently overhanging or slab. And I feel like winter is like for working on the weaknesses and summer is for like treats, slab treats.
Yeah. It's cool. What was the 513 like that you climbed? Because we didn't really talk about it much. I obviously watched a video, but like it's always hard to tell in a video. Can you just like describe the route?
Yeah, it's a slab. It has some vert sections, but I would say that like the hard part's a slab. There are also some options. So like in the first crux, the way that I chose to do it was like quite a like slabby kind of insecure way with like a bit of a scary fall.
Making it fit your powers. Smart.
Yeah. But you can also kind of like power undercling through that section, which like I never really even like properly explored. But I think that is like a beta that nice. People use. And yeah, it's just like pretty, I'd say that there's no section easier than like 12A on it. So it's like quite sustained with like, you know, mid 512 slab and vert climbing and two like pretty defined cruxes. The last crux being, of course, like right after you clip the last bolt. So you have to like do this like very patient slab dance, you know, and like rest in all the rests.
So it like really suited your strengths then, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. It's hard to tell in the video. Like you could have told me it was like 10 or 15 degrees overhung in the video and I would have been like totally, I don't know.
No. It was like vert or slab. You know, it was like kind of undulating the wall a little bit.
Gotcha.
But yeah. Also, patience. May tested my patience, you know, because like slab climbs slowly, right? This climb is also in the sun in the summertime until like 4:30 p.m. or so. So just like, yeah, between having a limited daylight and in-shade window of opportunity and the fact that each burn took like 30 minutes to like red point. So you spend 30 minutes on the wall and you like do the bottom crux with like the scary fall potential, and then you like rested all the rests and your feet hurt, and like the last rest you like clip a bolt and you kind of like pull over a little roof, and then you're like resting at an almost no hands, but like the bolt is at your feet. You know how like it's just nicer to rest when you like clip up? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
And so you're just kind of being like constantly taxed a little bit, you know? Sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's physical. And then, yeah, you just like fall between the last bolt and the chains. Actually, I worked the route on top rope solo a couple of times, just to like get it ruthlessly dialed, because there was no easy section, so I had to have beta for like the whole thing. So I actually didn't have to fall at the top like too many times before I did it, which was like very sick.
I mean, I think that's like something that changed since I did all this bouldering and especially highballing, and I got quite good at like rope rehearsal and rope soloing, like with a proper rope solo setup. And then when you go back to sport climbing, at least for me, I'm just like, man, I'm really inconveniencing my belayer. Like I could just be doing, like if the wall's not crazy steep, like I could just be doing all of this stuff by myself on self belay. Like I don't need a belayer for this, you know? And then, yeah, that's a whole different can of worms, but it is an interesting thing that changes as you gain access to those new skills for sure.
Totally. And that's something that like I think is really cool about slab, that it's like so easy to work on a rope by yourself.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I mean, I would love to get better at rope soloing on a steep wall, because I know that it's like it can be done. It just has a lot of like rope management and setup and faff that you need to understand. So there's a learning curve. Maybe you can mingle these two things together, because I'm an ungracious podcast host, but any of your slab tips, I know you brought some slab tips. Do any of them apply to the 513?
Surely. Also, I just wanted to say what you asked before about like how to find, any tips for like finding the thing that you're good at?
Oh yeah.
I would say that like something that I do a lot and that has like helped me figure out a bunch of things, one of them being like the slab thing, is like noticing when things don't make sense and then like thinking about that, not only in the moment where they don't make sense, you know? Like maybe there's a move that like isn't the crux move, you know, and everybody finds it super easy, and then that move is like impossible for you, and you're like, why is that? Like that's weird, you know? Occasions like that, like I feel like that happens to everybody. You get stumped by something that like other people are like, what? Like you ask what they did there, and they're like, oh, I don't even remember, you know? Occasions like that, like whenever anything like that happens to me, I'm like, like I wonder why that is. And then I go home and like think about it. And I feel like that's helped me like uncover all sorts of stuff in my climbing. Because you just have so much more time versus like the time that you have at the crag, and especially the time on the wall when, like, as you're saying, you're actively taking somebody else's time, like it's so limited. So I really try to like spend as much time as I can off the wall, like fleshing out those things. And like when I go to the crag, yeah, I'm like prepared, and I know what I'm trying to do. And like if I have like questions or things that don't add up, I'm like trying to gather more data so I can like come to a conclusion, you know?
Yeah, it's something I appreciate about you. Like you think about your climbing in a very like meta sort of way. And so when I was coaching you, like we would have a coaching call and you'd jump on and you would always have these like big sweeping like lessons that you learned, or you'd be like, why does like this type of climbing work this way? And I would just be like, oh, we got like big questions going on again. You actually, yeah, this is a little inside baseball, but you actually did the same exact thing when we got on for the podcast call. You were like, did you know that you can grab this type of hold like this? And I was just like, this is like such a prototypical Hayley thing. Yeah, it's good to ask those questions for sure. That's how you realize the difference between the way you think about things and the way that the people around you think about things, which is just an important way of understanding what you don't, like knowing what you don't know, learning what you don't know. And yeah, it can totally help you identify like your strong areas too, for sure. Yeah.
And like quantum leaps, that's what you call them, right? Yeah. Like when you like have a realization that like really has like a big impact in your climbing. I feel like those occasions where like something just doesn't quite add up, and it might not be so concrete as like, this move was hard for me, but it was easy for everybody else. But like, every so often I'll just get that like ding, 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 like question mark, like I don't really understand what's happening here. And like often those occasions have like led to some sort of quantum leap, which is like,
yeah. So like pay attention to that voice in your head is like the practical tip.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like go and like noodle on it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's something about coaching people where it's like, I think I've said this before on the podcast, but it's like, I do love the programming and the sets and reps and like making clear suggestions for people. And if that often does work for people, the structure, but like, I feel like a lot of what you're doing is like having conversations and trying to hit on those things. Like, where is the opportunity? Where is the thing that this thing is like, this person is thinking about something in just a way that's off kilter, or like there's just something they don't know, you know, they just haven't learned this little thing. And I always want to find what those little like tidbits are, you know, because it's so fascinating how much a single piece of knowledge can change your climbing, really. I mean, even like the fear of falling thing is a quantum leap. Like you
Totally.
went from basically being scared top roping 512 to like confidently leading 513, and that's like pretty sick, you know?
Thanks. Yeah. I feel like you don't know what you don't know, right? And so like it's so hard to even like know what area those things are in. But like when you find them, like one of my climbing partners like a couple of years ago, super powerful, just like a naturally powerful climber. He like told me one day, he was like, I only just found out that climbing is a rear wheel drive sport.
Yeah.
You know? And he's like been climbing for years. And I was just like,
Totally.
Whoa. But like we all have these blind spots, and like identifying them is like really helpful. And having somebody to like go through the weeds with you, you know, which in part has been you for me, and in part has been Ryman, you know, my significant other. Totally. We've like driven across country and I've just been like, I just don't really get this. And, you know, we'll spend like 6 hours talking about this goddamn thing. And he's like, can we eat now?
Yeah. It's, I don't know, I just have this like entertaining vision in my head of like, you're like learning to embrace slab and Ryman, who I've climbed a few times. I actually met him in Thailand like way back in the day. And he just strikes me as like a very intuitive, powerful climber. Like he's the polar opposite basically in my head of somebody who would be like, oh my God, fuck yeah, I just love like Smith Rock, like off vert. I just do not think of that as being like his like favorite thing to do all day. I don't know, not to put you in a box, Ryman.
It's true. And also like climbing with him and, you know, seeing like what you can do as a power climber and like wanting that definitely made me not even look at slab.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, and I feel like I've been led down that same path for like years and years, because not to make it a gender thing, but it's just, there's a little bit of like, oh, I'm a man, therefore I should be climbing in this really like powerful way, and I should be like campusing, and I should like, you know, rip my shirt off and like do figure eights on the boulder. Like that's with all the stuff that all the other men were doing when I was like getting into climbing, you know, so that was like the thing that I like looked up to. And then, you know, many years later now, I'm like, I go climb. This has happened to me on multiple projects now, where I like try this project and I figure out the sequence to keep my feet on in the spot that everybody cuts their fucking feet. And I'm just like, why is everybody cutting their feet here? And now I'm like secure and confident in myself as the climber who just is like, why would I cut my feet there? It's easier not to. I'll take every ounce of energy that I can get, you know, whereas like 10 or 15 years ago, I was like, oh, I want to be the cut my feet guy. So I would like try to do that, you know? It's just nice to like learn your way.
Me too, and I'm not a man. I just so badly wanted to be like a big strong boulder bro.
Yeah. You have gotten a lot handier at steep climbing though. Actually, I'm curious about, because that's like the flip side of the slab thing is now you've realized you're good at slab, but you have to eat your vegetables. You kind of mentioned that in the winter you do more sandstone climbing. Like have you had to like, has it been an uphill effort to like go back to the steep climbing and like embrace those things too?
I wouldn't describe it as an uphill effort. I would say that like, you know, having spent a number of years thinking that I was bad at everything, like weakness is only weakness relative to strength, right? So like I kind of look at it more as like, it's like a privilege to like have a weakness, if that makes sense, because it is the polar opposite of having a strength. And that strength, I wouldn't understand that like this climbing feels hard for me without understanding climbing that doesn't feel hard for me, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I try to look at it that way, as like this only feels like this because I know what it feels like when stuff feels good. And I'm gonna like, you know what I mean? You can't have sunshine without rain.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Here's a very self-indulgent question. I feel like, and you may disagree, I feel like hard slab, the grades are stiff. Actually, even like moderate slab routes, often the grades are quite stiff, right? And I feel like that's something that can be confusing with the grading scale, especially for like climbing on granite. I'm not sure how much granite experience you have, but like around here, like slabs are just hard. It doesn't really like matter that much what grade they are a lot of the time. And so like realizing that the style of climbing that you're super good at is a style of climbing where like the grading scale probably ends a little earlier. You know, there's no 15C slabs, you know, or 15D or whatever we're on now. You know what, you kind of know what I'm saying? Like, does that play into your like perception of grades at all? Or do you just feel like straight across, like you're still better at slab, even though the grades are harder?
I'm still so much better at slab. Yeah. Like,
Okay.
like I understand that. And like, you know, people say that, but like, that is not my experience. Yeah.
How far do you think you'll take it? Like, you think you'll keep trying, you think you'll just break through all your grades in slab, or do you think eventually you're going to be like, no, I like need to embrace it more and like become a steep climbing type person?
So I mean, like being well-rounded is important to me. So I am like constantly, you know, also like even when I was like focusing on slab, I was still doing like at least one like boulder session in the gym a week, focusing on like the steep stuff to not let that like totally fall off the wagon. And now, like that it's like wintertime and I'm sport climbing in Red Rock, not bouldering like I normally do, like actually sport climbing to try and get better at steep sport climbing.
Cool.
I do like want to improve in that, and I think that it's like useful across the board, but I do think that like if I'm pushing my grade, it's probably going to be slab.
Okay. So it's like it's like hit a PB in slab and then like backfill the pyramid, and like, you know, it's like 13A slab and then you like come back in and do like I mean, that's like sort of the same thing that everybody else does. I just feel like it's the other way around.
Just the other way around.
Most people. Yeah. I mean, like I would be insanely proud of myself to climb 13A slab, and I've climbed 13D. So. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I would be insanely proud of myself to climb like a 12C thug climb, you know, where it's like really just about like being strong. Like that would be sick.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. I hope for that. I hope for that for you. In the meantime, tell the people how to climb slab. What do we do?
How to climb slab.
Help me climb 13A slab.
Okay, so something that I've like really noticed actually in this like steep climbing era that I'm in right now, I have noticed that when I'm on like really, really steep routes, that my like central nervous system is not used to it in the way that it is used to most other stuff. And I've been climbing for what are we, 2020, like 8 years now, I guess, nearly 8 years. So I'd say like most of the like exposure stuff has long gone away, you know, like being high up or being on an arete or like whatever. But because I just don't have that much experience climbing like properly steep, you know, like 40 degrees and above on a rope, like I'm finding that when I get on those routes, I am like overly adrenalized, if that makes sense, you know, like central nervous system, like up to 1000. And in having these experiences and being like, whoa, like I won't be cruxing out, but I will like be trembling. And I'm not like scared, you know, like at all. It's like totally just intensity. And the only way you like get through that intensity is like by exposing yourself to it, right? And I've just like in these last few months, I've like really come to understand now what it feels like when I see people trembling on a slab. Because like slab for me is comfort zone, you know, it's not.
Right.
When I see people doing that, like in my mind, I'm like, why don't they just relax? And it's like your central nervous system is not allowing you to relax because you are in this like place that's like very, very foreign, and the exposure is like super intense. And I think that you have to like spend the time in that terrain to like get past that point to like really be able to like do anything, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So you basically, the tip is like you have to be exposed to it in order to improve at it. I don't know if that's too general, but yeah.
You have to get past that like extreme feeling of intensity. Like, do you know what I mean by like intensity feeling? Yeah. It's like,
oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like it's literally like parasympathetic tone or something. I'm not sure if that's the right phrase, but yeah, that sensation of like, you know that it shouldn't be this hard, but it's still hard. Like,
and you're like at a rest, and you're not pumped, but like you can't get your heart rate to go down.
So this is actually about steep climbing, but the gym here, I live in a small town, and the gym here, I think the sport climbing terrain is like kind of the better terrain, like it's sort of better than the bouldering. And there's like a huge proper horizontal roof on the sport climbing terrain, which is like pretty interesting for a pretty small gym. But like the very first time that I went to lead in that horizontal roof, this was like last summer when I was doing more sport climbing, I was like, there's a 510 that goes through the roof. It's like all, you know, like Technic supervillain, like mega like handlebar jugs basically. And I like got up there and I was like, you know, 45 feet off the ground on this roof. And I like, you know, my body went horizontal and I basically just shut down. I was just like, oh, this is like completely Because I've climbed lots of roof climbs, like lots of roof sport climbs even, but it's been a number of years and never that high off the ground. And I think there was just some deep primal thing inside of me that was like, you can't be horizontal up here, bro. And like, I just was like, okay, that's good. I'm coming down. I don't need to finish the roof. It was like, yeah. I'm just saying this to, I just want people to know that I'm just a human like you. I'm a mortal human like you.
Succumbs to exposure. Yeah. And I think that like, you know, people, like everybody knows that multi-pitch and like a rat climbing and all this stuff, like, you know, there's an exposure element, but I think that there's like a pretty big exposure element on slab if you are uncomfortable on slab or if you haven't spent a lot of time on slab. And like that feeling of it just being like so intense and you can't relax and your like heart rate is super high and you're like all in your arms and you feel like panicked and whatnot, like that's temporary. Like that, just like if you start to run, you know, like running sucks for like a couple of weeks, but like it gets better. Like as soon as you get through that phase, it gets like infinitely better. And I think that like if you're changing styles and if you're like trying to slab climb when you're like primarily steep climber, like you really have to persevere through that like stage of discomfort to like even get to the like more practical tips that we're going to get to next.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, that's just good advice for climbing, honestly. Good tip.
Thanks. Next one is accept the insecurity. Don't try and make it secure. Like slab, often, like, yes, there is slab that has good holds. That does exist. But a lot of the time, slab, especially if it's a sport route, so it's going to have, like, you know, a lot of different movement and a lot of different holds and a lot of different feet, it's going to be insecure, you know? Like, that's just a fact. If you're getting on slab, it's going to be insecure. And I think that people who don't like slab or don't have a lot of experience at slab think that they're doing something wrong. They think it feels insecure because they're misreading it, or, like, they're not controlling the hold enough, or like they're using the wrong foot or whatever. But like that's just how slab feels.
It's just part of how it is. Yeah, there is like a very, very fine line between being on the wall and not being on the wall anymore, and you have to sort of like accept that, huh?
Yes. Yeah. I think like when you accept that like that is actually how it's, you know, quote unquote supposed to be, it's way easier to just like do it, you know. And the flip side of that is like the way that things that are like steep, for example, feel secure is by the power of your like physicality, right? Like it feels secure because there's like a giant hold that you can like hold on to, like using your muscles. But that comes with like a ticking clock, right? Like it's super secure, but you can't hold on forever. Whereas slab is like the opposite. It's like super insecure at times, but you can be in these very insecure positions for like a long time if you need to be. So right. It's like a trade-off between the two. It's like you have more time. It's more insecure, but you also like have more time.
Yes, you want to like lean into that insecurity. I think that's super fascinating. I have noticed a very clear pattern with people that I coach of trying to get too much security or stability from their arms when they're climbing on all terrain, but especially like powerful terrain. Like people tend to default, they're not feeling stability in their body, and so they default to their arms instead of looking to create stability from like the whole unit. And that's something that comes up just constantly. But it is interesting to apply that to slab because it's just such a more zoomed in, like the details are so much more important, and yet often you're like very, very reliant on single points of contact, usually the feet, right? But my personal takeaway is like I should go back to practicing wearing stiffer shoes, because that's why I would always switch to sensitive shoes, is just because I really, even when the feet are quite bad, I don't feel insecurity when I'm climbing outside. That's not true on volumes in the gym. That is a place where I feel distinctly insecure. There's no good spot. All the spots are bad. I struggle with that. I have room to grow. To grow.
I actually like to climb slab in like fairly soft shoes because I like to feel the holds like underneath my feet. I feel like it's easier when you have like some sensation there to be like, no, I am standing on something, rather than just like using your eyes. You know, like if it's like a TC Pro, you're like using your eyes 100%. To place the foot, and then like you can't really feel anything. But
and I can count the number of times I've had like a dime edge foothold where I was like, wow, I really have to do this with a stiffer shoe. And I understand that like if I want to climb 514 at Smith, I probably would have to, like, you just need to get as much power out of your feet as you can, because, you know, it's going to take pounds of weight off your hands, and the pounds of weight really, really matter when the climbing is challenging enough. But I never got my skills to that level. And here, I haven't had to do that yet, but I have the same thing. It's like, it's hard to give up that sensitivity. It's so, so valuable.
Yeah. Also, like, I think it depends on the kind of rock. Like, the slab that, like, the slab that I've been climbing a lot of recently is limestone, and some of it is water polished. So like there are, edges where like having a stiffer shoe would be advantageous, but then there are also lots of smears and like kind of jamming your foot into like a water pocket and stuff that's like way easier if the rubber is more malleable.
Yeah, got it. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously granite. I've been climbing on granite for a long time, and I think people think that the feet are really like tricky and bad, and the truth is like most of the feet around here in Leavenworth are actually jugs. Sorry, everyone, but it's the truth.
Okay, next slab tip. This might be a controversial one. Use your knees.
Ooh, wow. Oh, like to bounce, like while you have a foothold, like to push into the wall also.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I know this technique. Nice.
Yeah.
I'm better at slab than I thought.
Yeah, it's just like you have so few points of contact, and your points of contact are like small, that like adding one can like be the difference between doing the move and not doing the move, Especially like if you've got like a hard or like really insecure clip, the kind where you like hold your breath. I also will say the same for like elbows and thumbs, but like knees I use the most of.
Okay. So I wonder if our leg and arm lengths play a role here too, but I feel like I use my elbows a lot. So I'll be like on a hold, and my forearm is often in contact with the wall. My elbow is pushing into the wall, like when I'm high stepping with the opposite side foot, because it just lets me like press down into the hold even more. The same as like when you're on an edge where there's like rock underneath the edge that's protrudes, like you just pull with your whole palm, You don't just like crimp the hold and hold your palm away from the wall. Like you're gonna get all that contact. Totally. So same deal. Yeah.
Yeah, you just get more leverage. And I think like, when you start climbing, and I guess like when you're doing mantles and stuff, knees are like quote unquote bad form, or like perceived. I don't believe that. I like to use my knees for everything.
I think if you're done mantling and you're just pulling over the edge, the alpine knee is like okay. I don't think there's a problem. But if you're in the middle of a mantle and you put your knee on, I think that's like risky. I honestly think that's just risky. I don't think it's like bad. I think it's just risky.
Yeah.
I'm not like judging people. I just don't want them to get hurt.
Yeah. I have like really long legs and really short arms. So whenever I'm trying to like do like a hand-foot match in a press, I like almost always have to put my knee in first and then like bump it up to a foot. Yeah, don't be afraid to use your knees on slab. Knees are there for using.
Yeah, slab is very full body, and that makes sense. Like it's gonna be scrappy in a lot of cases because you can lean forward and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, and like
I don't think that's controversial.
Okay, good. I also said thumbs. Like, do you know about like this grip? Mm-hmm. And I'm not entirely sure how to like explain that, but I use this on
like
slabs
using the thumb for like counter pressure. Yeah. Yeah. For slabs specifically? Okay.
Slab specifically, yeah, because like they're often like hyper micro featured, right? And like sometimes you just need to like balance. Like you need to be maybe you have like a high foot that you need to stand up on, and you just need like something to like hold on to or to balance you or whatever. There's just like maybe there's not a hold, but there's like a spike here and there's like a little line over there, and you can like torque your hand between them in this way, which I'm like crimping with my like four fingers, and then I'm pushing in the opposite direction with my thumb, which gives you like a huge amount of control versus like only pulling in one of those directions.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think the thumb, the universal skill there, like the universal value is just that the thumb points in a different direction than the fingers, and that creates like so many opportunities. So pinching is like the obvious case, but just by virtue of the fact that like you can have your shoulder internally rotated and your fingers like your palm is facing away from you and your thumb can be pushing when your fingers are pulling, like that just creates a whole like world of opportunity because yeah, you can make so many things work for you on slab. But in general, just the fact that the thumbs are handy. I mean, we know that we're human beings, so I don't need to explain it on a podcast.
Otherwise we'd just be monkeys.
Yep.
I have two more. One of them is trust.
This is great. It's great stuff.
Yeah? Okay, good.
Yeah.
One of them is trust your feet implicitly, not in like I think this foot is probably okay, but like maybe it's going to blow kind of thing. Like take care when you place them, be selective, choose a good foot, tension the foot, but then like do not think about it again. If that makes sense. Like, I mean, I think about it in terms of like maintaining tension, but I do not question it. Like I place my foot, I put tension on that foot, and then by all accounts that foot is a jug in my mind.
Just to kind of ignore it. Yeah. Yeah, this is like the practical side of the lean into the insecurity.
Yeah,
thing.
just like 100% trust.
Yeah. How do you practice that?
I guess just like getting, that is a tricky one because when you think that the foot is going to slip, it will slip. If we're talking about like really bad slab feet on like actual hard moves, as soon as you question it, like you're off. So you really have to like approach it with confidence. I guess probably the best way to do that would be starting with better feet and then like working down to worse feet because you can't like create confidence out of nothing, right?
Right.
You gotta just be like, okay, I don't actually believe, and I'm just gonna like pretend believe.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's really important.
Makes sense.
Yeah, like if you're just climbing expecting your feet to like slip at any time, it's like really, really hard to climb slab well that way. Like you really need to like actually be on your feet like as much as you possibly can and like 100% trust in them that they're gonna stay.
Yeah. This is I'm just building this all back towards the comp slabs that have burned me off at the local gym, and I'm just like, okay, I just need to like spend more time standing on volumes. I need to like build up because I think about it the whole time. I think about it like constantly when I'm standing on volumes that they're gonna
like, is my foot gonna blow? Is my foot? Yeah. Like you do.
It's scary.
Yeah, you do need to like obviously think about like maintaining tension and like. Especially if you're like moving through different positions, you might need to like articulate your ankle differently or whatever, right? It's not like forget about the foot, but just like forget about the possibility of it sliding, which comes hand in hand with like you have to be comfortable falling.
Right.
Yeah.
Falling on slab, definitely a bit of an art form.
Yeah. My last slab tip is take some falls
on
slab.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any? Sorry, go ahead.
They are not as bad as you think they're going to be.
Okay, I'm nodding violently, but I think Hayley can tell that my heart is not in it.
Have you actually had bad slab falls?
Well, I guess it depends on your definition of actually bad. I would just say the average fall on a slab sport route is like just much less pleasant than the average fall on like even a gently overhanging route, and like vert is in between. But like I don't love feeling like I'm kind of racing the fall to like make sure that I don't flip backwards, which can happen sometimes. And I think it's probably worth saying that your belayer matters like a lot with sport climbing on slab. Not that they don't with overhanging climbing, but I feel like there's a certain level of overhang where it's like your belayer just needs to pay out more slack and like you'll be okay, Whereas like that is not true with falling on like vert and slab as much. Yeah, well,
totally.
I mean, just tell us your experience and tell us like how should people fall on slab? Is that a valid question?
I think that you should probably just like think less about it. Like we all have instincts, and it's like pretty natural to try and like right yourself and to like put your feet and your arms up if necessary for like colliding with the wall. It's not like some like we all just like innately have this instinct of like self-preservation, and I think that slab falls are instinctual like that, and like not just for me because I like slab and like I've spent some time on it, but like it actually, there are not that many scenarios where like you were saying having to like race the fall or whatever to make sure you don't flip upside down. There are like pretty specific scenarios where that happens, and like most slab falls aren't like that and aren't like cheese graters, everyone's worried about like cheese gratering and like knocking all their teeth out. Like tell me one person who has lost a tooth to a slab. Like that doesn't actually happen. Like you might like slide a little bit, or like your foot pops and like your shin will like grate the rock a little bit, but then ultimately you're just going to kind of like bounce off the wall and like fall back into space.
You kind of skitter. Yeah, gravity is doing too much of the work for there to be that much contact. Yeah, in that sense, I actually feel like slab falls in bouldering are maybe like scarier than slab falls in lead, but I just generally have more experience falling on pads than I do falling on a rope. So like the rope is almost an unpredictable element in a lot of cases. But yeah, I mean, you said like who's actually chipped their teeth, and the irony is like the only people I can really think of who have gotten hurt falling off the slab. Like I know two people who got hurt on fat slab in Squamish, but they both got hurt jumping down. And I know someone who got hurt on Robinson's rubber tester in Bishop, but he was trying to run and jump it and fell on and these people all landed on the pads and hurt themselves on the pads, not on the slab. So yeah, maybe it's actually safe. I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't think that it is as bad as people think that it is. That was my final slab tip. Yeah, I think it is like if you never take slab falls and you're just always trying not to fall when you're on slab and you think that it's going to be like catastrophic when mostly it's just mildly uncomfortable. Like, yeah, it's pretty hard to like actually focus on the climbing, let alone like enjoy the climbing, you know? And it's really hard to get good at something if you're not having any fun.
Totally. It's really hard to get good at something if you're not having any fun. Yeah, that's just a good general piece of advice. I was trying to think about like what other topics we could use to close it out, but I actually feel like that's a pretty good note to end it on. Any other tips on being good at slab, but steep climbing, or I think we're out of slab tips. Anything else that we didn't cover? Because I know came very well prepared, which I super appreciate.
What was I going to say? Just looking through these and seeing if there's something that we didn't get to.
I feel like we hit all the bullet points on the outline. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. Yeah,
I think we did good. I do actually, that point that you just said to finish on, I knew I had written down something like that. Like, I think that it's like just generally trying to work on anti-style stuff. Like, try to find the fun, you know?
Yeah.
Whether it's slab or whether it's steeps, like it is for me, like if it just feels like grinding, like it's really hard to show up and give like 110% effort. And like,
hell yeah, that's good advice for literally all the topics we covered today. That's good advice for getting over fear of falling. That's good advice for figuring out what you're good at. That's good advice for all of the individual things that you could be good at, which might be slab, depending on who you are.
Yeah, like for steeps specifically, because I'm like, you know, a slab tech climber. Like I've been really getting into knee bars. I'm like, oh, knee bars and like heel hooks and toe hooks, they're the tech of the steeps.
Yeah.
So it's like my little gateway drug, you know?
Totally, dude. I mean, and I feel like being a dancer and being very like leg oriented, like lower body oriented, like compression climbing and heels and toes they take a lot of time to learn, but that's definitely like my like preference, my comfort area, not like arms forward. But yeah, if you want the climbing to be truly hard, at least hard for like the type of climbing I want to do, eventually it has to be kind of steep. But maybe I'll go climb a slab. We'll see. Maybe you've inspired me.
Yes, please. We need to do the new trip that we didn't yet get to do, and there's like a 13A slab there that I would like to try that we should do.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. We'll find the time. It can be baby Charlotte's first trip to West Virginia. Tick off that state. I usually ask people sandstone or granite, but you really don't climb on granite that much, so I guess it's sandstone or limestone.
Limestone. Well,
yeah.
Okay, southern sandstone I would take. Like southern sandstone would be my preference, but red rock sandstone, it's definitely second to limestone.
Okay. Got it. There's a tier list.
There's a tier.
Yeah, southern sandstone, then limestone, then red rock sandstone. Yeah. I think most people would probably agree with that.
New River Gorge, best crag in the world, is sandstone, so I have to say sandstone.
Nice. What's your favorite slab route in the New River Gorge that you've done?
It's like a slab arete called Preparation H.
Nice.
So cool. Sick. Yeah, the name, it's appropriately named, shall we say.
Okay, good to know. Oh, man, awesome. This has been a blast. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being so well prepared.
Sweet, no problem. Thanks for having me.
I guess just leave people with where do they find all your stuff? YouTube channel, Small Stick.
Yeah. My Instagram and YouTube are both 512 and beyond, as in the numbers 5.12 and beyond. And then the Small Stick has its own Instagram, which is Small Stick Climbing, and it also has a website, smallstickclimbing.com. And you can always
Sweet.
DM me on the internet if you have small questions about small sticks or big questions.
On the internet. Small questions on the internet. Awesome. Thanks, Hayley.